good day, everybody. Welcome to the Indian Boxer Ring and exclusive. This exclusive interview is with none other than Jorge Pinzon. Jorge Pinzon needs very little introduction in the world of boxers. Jorge has been a standard fixture in AKC shows for quite a bit of some time, and he has had some notable wins with the dogs that he has shown as well. Um, George is the breeder, the brains behind Draco Boxers, and George is also a well-known handler, having shown not only in the AKC shows. Well, originally George hails from Mexico City, Mexico, but George has been showing extensively in North America, in Central and South America. And most recently, he's also spread his wings and he started showing dogs in Thailand and Philippines as well. So it's a lot of knowledge that George brings to the table in terms of his understanding of the breed and also his handling, which he has continued to actually show for the last 40 odd years. George, it is a pleasure and an honor to invite you to the Indian Boxer Ring exclusive interview series. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you. It's as well. It's an honor to be here with you and all the audience. We'll see. I hope that is something good for everybody, and I'm very glad to be here with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, George. George, this is an interview, as you have done a lot of interviews, I know, in other forums as well. But this is an interview for people to get to know more about you. So I'm going to start off with some basic questions about how you got started with dogs. So my first question to you is, could you share with our viewers on how you got involved in dogs?
In dogs. Okay. When I was a kid and I go to the school, I have to cross a park where a guy, a doctor, walk his dogs in the mornings. So I see him every day with a couple of boxers, beautiful boxers, absolutely gorgeous. Then someday I asked him to well, I talk to him usually every day a little bit. And one day I asked him if I can walk the dog, and then later I walk his dogs in the mornings, and he led me to take care of them when every time he needed, like if he goes to vacation or something, and I take care of those dogs. I love it. I love it. They was really pretty. She was a couple, a male and a female, and she was world champion, a junior world champion. Very beautiful beach. Um, so I get close to him, not too close, but close. And then I start to, in some point when have some puppies, my father buy one of those puppies for me. And later, that puppy was a monarchy. So I went to the ring with him, but the people explained to me that, well, he was not a show dog for that reason. Then my father buy a female from a breeder, a Mexican breeder that did a very good job at that time. His name was Gabriel Carrillo. Uh, and this beach was Karina, very pretty beach, was the queen of the reserves. She was the one that I learned with her how to show. She was my learning puppy. Then we won like 40 or 50 reserves, and she saw passing champions. She was I don't know, some beach won winners beach, and she was reserved
Mhm.
over the rest of the females there. Then the one that beat us finish and be a champion. And then another one that we beat all the time start winning, and we keep in reserve and reserve and reserve. And then another one, and that is why she was the reserve queen. But mm, a handler of that time, Priscilla Sertuche, a very good handler and very good friend, and she put the points on her. Is she actually well, she was a handler, a real handler. I was just I was learning,
Mhm.
so she finished her basically. I think that I put a point or something, but. mm that beach was very important for me because I learned with her. Then, when the monarchy was no good to show, my father buy Routier. This one that is in the screen is Routier as a puppy, and well, my father is there standing with the camera. So this dog was very important for me because this was my first best in show dog, and he did a very great career. He was uh, um, two times ranked in the number well, as a number one all breed dog in Mexico
Mhm.
in 81 and 84. So this dog is very important for me. He was the base of everything. Uh, John Connolly came to judge in Mexico one time. After he judged the national in the States, he came to judge the national here. We just have one specialty a year. That was the national and well, everything was just the specialty. So John Connolly came to Mexico. This dog won Best of Breed, and he explained to everybody because after the show we have some little like a reunion with all the people at the show and the judge, and everybody asking questions and what he recommend and what lines in the states he recommend, and he said you don't need to go to the states. You have this dog here. Is this dog is 20 years ahead of his time,
Mhm.
and I was very um, lucky to have him in my hands because uh, I learned with him. Is having somebody so correct and beautiful, and I look at him every day. That makes my eye to get used to that, to get used to the good. So when I see another dog that was not like him, I see that something is wrong there. So he helped me a lot to learn, uh, to train my eye to see the good things. The
Mhm.
other beach, Karina, was the one that helped me to show. And I don't tell you what this dog is. This dog is was bred by Rafael Tejero. He also was a very good breeder. And this dog came from the lines of Holy Lane. His father, Rafael, buy a dog in the States, uh, regulares something. I don't really remember his name, but came from Holy Lanes. His pedigree is all Holy Lanes. So that is what my start. Yeah, this is Routier. This is my first vesting show and his first vesting show. Um, the judge was Juan Jose Garcia Lemus. Well, is there, still is there. I mean, uh, I have some news from him like recently. He's not involved in boxers anymore, but uh,
Mhm.
he knew boxers very well. He was a very good breeder. In some point, he used the dog that he put up,
Mhm.
and yeah, he did a very nice job also.
Mhm. So, George, now in terms of you started very young. Those pictures that I put up on the screen, You might have been probably 10 or maybe 8 or 10 years old when you started showing dogs. Did you learn a lot? Um, was it a lot? What was your learning process like when you started showing dogs? Was it a lot of trial and error? Did you learn from watching people show? How did you learn? What was your learning process like? How did you understand dogs?
Well, the first time I went to a dog show was my first puppy, and the breeder told me, the wife of the breeder told me, like, you have to train your dog, but don't tell me how to train it. Just say you have to train, and I have no idea. I mean, I was a kid, and how I will train the dog to do what or how. I have no idea. I don't know if I have to teach the dog to be sit or calm or I don't know. So I went to the ring. I went to the show blank, completely blank. I have no idea what that was. So the first time they sent me to the ring, they put the dog in my hand, my armband, and go. And I was lost in the middle of the ring and I don't know what to do. So I went there. I see a line of people with dogs. I said, well, it's like a line. So I just go to the end of the line. I went there and I start walking, well, when the other ones walk. And that was my first experience. But after that, I have an access to the boxer ring. My father um, subscribed to the boxer ring, the magazine in the States.
Hmm.
And with that magazine, I start learning because I see, I mean, I don't have a teacher, somebody that say to me, you have to do this, you have to do that. I have to learn by myself and watching, I mean, first watching the people in the at the show in Mexico in my place where I go to the show, I sit and watch and learn. Then the magazines was very useful because at that time we don't have internet and Facebook and nothing. We don't have even cell phones.
Hmm.
So everything was print. Everything was print. All the information goes in magazines. So um, these magazines show me beautiful dogs, very stunning, and with the handlers behind the dogs stacking them. And so I learned from people like Alvin Lee, John Connolly, Dick Baum, Larry Ingalls, all the handlers that was behind the dogs, and I see how they do it, and I copy it. I take a mirror, put my dog, and I try to make the same pictures that I was looking at the magazine.
Hmm.
Um, so that was the start. That was like the way how I try to make my dogs to look like those dogs and
Hmm.
try to look the same way that the handlers look. Um, and that was the way. It was not really somebody teaching. Was just like
Hmm.
imitating everything I can.
Right. Imitation is the best form of flattery, and you copy the best, and you and look at you now, right? So you are as renowned a handler as anyone can hope to be, and that's how you got to start. Um, Thank you, George. Um, Now, I know that you mentioned Mexico in terms of proximity to the states gives an advantage in terms of seeing the dogs. There are a lot of dogs that are bred in America, in United States, that gets shown in Mexico, and vice versa. Now, when was your first show? What is the first show in the United States that you saw, as a handler, or as when was your first show that you saw, and what was your first show as a handler in the United States?
I think the first show that I saw was Westminster because it's what you can see at the in some videos or maybe at the TV or something like that. I don't really remember. I remember be watching Westminster show, just I don't remember how. I think that was videos. But the first time I traveled to the States to show was in 93.
Hmm.
I think that was in 93. I went to the National. I went to ABC in New Jersey, and uh, I bring a dog with my friend Javier. He bought a dog from Turo. No, it was I no from High Tech. He buy the dog from Truesdale, and we bring him to that show. Um, and I remember that show actually was very nice because I see a lot of people. Everybody that I saw in the magazines was there, was live, was something amazing for me. Was is very nice, and not just that. The judge was not less than Annie Clark. Annie Clark is the best judge in America of all times. That I don't have a doubt about it. Is somebody that really knows very well her breed, that was the poodles and boxers, and incorruptible, and she do whatever she wants to do in the ring. Is what the judge is supposed to do. They have to go there and give the opinion. So at that show, she was my judge, and I love it. Even uh, she hit my hand. She just because she say I I want to see what I want to see, and and she hit my hand. She knew that I was doing something to hide something, and she knew it. She knew it, and she was just amazing.
Hmm.
Anyway, mm, with her is that is more. Let me tell you something because it's very important. The reason why I breed boxers is Annie Clark, basically. Annie Clark, Michelle Billings, and John Connolly. Those three judges, some very important people in my life, because I consider the three of them the best boxer judges at that time. I mean, I don't know any other judges in the world because I don't have access to that information at that time.
Hmm.
But I have information of the United States. So those three people was the base. And then I start breathing with the purpose to show my work to those three people.
Hmm.
Uh, I have the fortune to do it and not just to show to them. With time, in some point, I get close to them and I have a chance to be friends with John Connolly and Michelle Billings. And so I was very fortunate to do that. And uh, unfortunately, the three of them are gone. They are not with us anymore. But now, in some point, I was a little bit lost, and I say, well, now I have to breathe for me. Uh, and then realize that is more people that I respect and I like, and I respect their point of view, their knowledge about the breed and everything. So these people is around the world. Is people like Judy Horton, that is an authority, Liz Gunter, Maureen Boyd. I don't know. It's all that people that is boxer specialists around the world. They go from specialty to specialty in different countries. So what they can compare in their mind everything that happened in the breed in the world. So now I breed for the specialists, for the boxer specialists, wherever they are. In some point, I remember to travel with Draco Bad Boy to New York to be judged by Judy Horton, that came from Australia to judge in the States.
Hmm.
I traveled from Mexico to New York, with my dog just to be judged by her.
Wow,
And
that's quite a distance to travel.
I know, but not just that. Is I traveled with the dog to Portland. I showed him at the ABC regional, judged by Rufus Burleson. The dog was winner's dog, best of winners. And I traveled from Portland to Mexico to New York to show under Judy Horton.
Mm,
The entry to Judy was so big that she cannot judge it.
mm,
They are allowed to judge 175 dogs a day.
mm, mm,
Her entry was so big that she cannot judge them. So she judged females and the breed. So and I have a dog, a male.
mm,
So I was not judged by her. I don't show. I don't show.
mm,
They replaced her assignment with male with some other judge. I don't even know who was.
mm,
But I don't bother to go to the ring and show under him.
mm,
The reason why I was in New York was Judy Horton. So I went to her ring to see her judging the rest of the females and the breed. And I enjoy it very much. I really, really enjoyed that day.
mm. George, I remember asking you ahead of this interview, how many champions have you bred? And you said you lost count. At some point, you lost count. So I'm not going to ask you that question again. But what you also mentioned is you consider, you feel pride in showing your dogs under specialist judges and in getting recognized with your best in shows. So, and you mentioned that you lost count in there as well, but you think it's about 400 or 450 best in shows that you've gotten with the dogs that you have bred. Uh,
Actually,
so, what is your
I'm sorry.
sorry? So, what is your formula for success? Is your formula for success? Do you get your best success through line breeding, inbreeding, or outcrossing? What was your formula for success?
I use a lot the line breeding. In the recent years, in the last 3, 4 years, I've been using inbreeding a lot. And the best way to use this is to combine all of them. You cannot be doing inbreeding all the time. You
Mhm,
cannot be doing out crossings all the time. You don't go anywhere. So you need to do inbreeding, line breeding, and out crossing like mix it. For instance, I do like line breeding 2, 3 generations and then outcross. And then again, I go back to the line and start doing some inbreeding, line breeding, and then outcrossing it.
mhm,
In those outcrosses, I use different dogs. For instance, in some point, I use a dog from Eleanor Foley, El Harlem Quest, a dog from Canada. I introduced that in my line. Then, in some point, I bred to a Japanese dog, King Cherry Shoot, the King. Uh, then what else I use from outside? I use Levi from outside of my lines.
mhm,
And I introduce something from time to time to use in the line. It's not always anything. No, you
mhm,
cannot use everything all the time. The mix of all of it is the best. Now, in order to breed, mm, some people, the genetics in the past, the people that the the parents of the genetics are they spend all their lives studying and making tries and everything with the the plants, with flies, with all kinds of experiments and everything.
mhm,
So they spend their lives with one thing all their life, like a 40, 50 years, who knows, all their life. And they put all that information in a book. And other people continue with with that work because they learn from that and continue and put everything in another book. So now we have the fortune to have all those books available. Now we can learn from those books and to have all the knowledge that these people have in all their lives. And we can have that knowledge in a month or 2 months or in 3 days.
Mhm.
And then start from them. We have all that knowledge in the brain. So it's much easier in this time because we have all those bases that help because explain how everything works.
Mhm.
Uh, so that makes our work as a breeder much easier.
Right. Very, very true. I think that's a very valid point. You don't have to always reinvent the wheel. If you do your research properly, there's a lot of work, good work that people have done. You're gonna just you're just gonna carry it from that point onwards. And now on that topic of reinventing the wheel, have you tried have you researched about the other styles, like for example, continental boxers, or let's say English boxers? Have you researched on those dogs? What are some of the things that you like in those dogs? And my second part of the question is, have you tried, George, blending these styles in your breeding program?
Okay. Mm, the styles, okay, the American style is what is more familiar for me, but is what I work with all my life. Um, this type mm, is more elegant than the rest. Um, it's more elegant, but even if I try to, I breathe with this style. I always try to go to the center, to not to be in the extremes. For instance, I will explain a little bit. One extreme for me is a bulldog. The other extreme for me is something like a Great Dane or a Doberman or something. So in the middle, the boxer is a boxer. Uh, can be a little bit to the bulldoggy side or a little bit to the Doberman side or Great Dane. So uh, the I try to keep in the center something more universal. Anyway, the European in the past, I mean, I've been watching boxers for many years, and I see that the Europeans are mm, evolutioning into a more universal dog. In the past, I don't know, 40 years, 30, 20 years ago, the European boxer was too bulldoggy, too small for my, I mean, small, mm, too short noses,
Mhm.
maybe shorter legs, more round, and that make them like a bulldoggy look. The American dogs in some point was too leggy, too the muscles maybe a little bit too long, more stretch everywhere the dog, and more angles everywhere, and that make them like more like a Doberman. So something in the middle is something more universal. The people in Europe is also going in good direction. The dogs that I see in the last 5 years from Europe are a little bit more um, in the middle.
Mhm.
So the English is very, the English dogs are very good. I'm talking about 40 years ago. As 40 years ago, the English dogs, the Australian dogs, was for my from my point of view was the best boxers.
Hmm.
Mm, the English are very pretty. They have a lot of good things. Uh, that's the reason why Draco Boxers is based on that. This Draco Bad Boy, that is a very important part in the kennel. He is a grandson of a English female.
Hmm.
What she bring into the Draco Boxers is the characteristics of the English. Uh, Black mask, black pigments on the eyes,
Hmm.
uh, a bite, very wide, beautiful bite, bone, the feet very, very close and square, nice. All that came from the English lines.
Hmm.
Now, it's not easy to blend any sometimes not even it's not easy to blend lines in the same style like American lines. Some lines American with American don't match together. The same happens with continental or English or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, not it's not something that you cannot make a general opinion about it. It's individuals, and sometimes the an American style with a European or English and match well, and it's like you win the lottery. Um, Sometimes doesn't match, and the result is just horrible. Uh, the best way to see it is, and to try to do it, is
Hmm.
in a long term. You can put together a little bit of English, a little bit of European into your line, and then work it a little bit more and try again. So to do it slowly, to do it step by step. You cannot get an American bred to a European and then to get something spectacular. That doesn't happen. That is not real.
Right. It needs a lot of patience when you're blending lines. You don't get to see the results in the first generation. You got to breed something on. You got to breed. You don't get the success with the extremes in the first generation, is what you're saying, and I totally get. I think there's been examples. A lot of people uh, have been interested in trying it, but with limited success. And I think you explained it very well. Um, George, I wanted to ask you a few more questions about uh, your eye for picking the best in terms of breeding, choosing breeding partners, or in terms of picking up the puppy. My first question to you is about the breeding aspect of it. Now, you mentioned that you line breed for 3 generations, then you outcross or you inbreed sometimes. How do you, George, plan your breedings? Um, Now, when you plan your breedings, how important do you think it is to have backup plans? And my third part of the question is, what would be your advice for novice breeders, for new breeders, uh, on when they should start the planning process? So I'll put the question up on the screen, but my question is this: how does George plan his breedings? And the second part is, how important do you think it is for breeders to have backup plans?
Okay.
And what would be your advice for novice breeders on when they should start the planning process?
Okay. I will respond the last question first. When they supposed to start the planning breeding? Uh, at the first at the first litter. They have to start the plan on the first litter. You cannot be breeding and then start planning generations later or years later. You have to start before, you have to plan before you start. So, anyway, that responded the last question. Now, how do I plan my breedings? how do I plan my breedings? Uh, well, one of my favorite breedings is the uncle uncle niece breeding. That is one of my favorite ones. Or is the wait is uncle niece or aunt. mm, oh my god, I forget. I forget the how to translate it. But anyway, that's the idea. That is one of my favorite breedings because
Mm-hmm.
it's close enough without to be too close. Anyway, what I do, uh, a, a few seconds before, a few minutes before I mentioned the bulldoggy and the elegant are like the opposite sides, the opposite extremes.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a boxer in the middle. Imagine a boxer. Then can be a little bulldoggy, a little round, a little like a. I will call that like a type with like a little over type. Then in the other extreme is elegant. Is too elegant, like more leg, more neck. Um, that okay. So what I do is I try to breed never the extremes. I never put together two dogs that are too bulldoggy, for instance, like too typey.
Mm-hmm.
Two dogs with a very good boxer type,
Mm-hmm.
even if they are not in the extreme, if they are typey, both of them, and you put them together, the tendency will be to go in that direction and to be bulldog. Then, if I breed two elegant dogs, beautiful, it's okay, but the result will be too much elegance and going away from the type. So, what I try to do is to breed a beautiful type with elegant, and that way I have something elegant but with bone, with type, and something in the middle again. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
is the same as trying to with the colors. I always try to not to breed uh, to flashes
Mm-hmm.
or to plains.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I breed a flashy to plain most of the time. I do breedings between flashes from time to time, yes, when the characteristics are worth, when I say, okay, I have to do it this way, even with the risk of white poppies in some point. But um, it's because the dogs matching everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I do it. Other way, I will try to find something plain for somebody flashy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Another thing that I do also is, uh, let me see, the splashy plain is typed with elegance. Um, what else? What else? Let me see. How important do you think is to have backup plans? Backup plans. Always, the backup plans are always there. Since the time I pick my puppies, is a backup plan. I I think that for all my life with dogs, from the beginning I keep something from a litter, a male or a female, and the brother or the sister, always.
Mm-hmm.
And that not many people know it, but
Mm-hmm.
I keep a male and a female from the same litter all the time. Actually, in my house, if you can come to my house and see what I have, every single dog that I have a sister. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I will explain why. In some point, the producers of meat with the cows, uh, they produce meat and it's cows that produce milk. Is two lines different. That so they breed the cows with the bulls that produces meat, and they have meat producers, and the same with the milk. In some point, they try to do uh, a milk producer that at the end works for meat too. So, for instance, if they because if they have success with that, the cows will produce milk, and then the bulls that born there will be producers of meat in
Mm-hmm.
the same production.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they bred the cow, the milk cow, with the meat bull, and they don't have anything. They don't have milk or meat. They was no good for milk, no good for meat, and try it again, and nothing happens. The same happens.
Mm-hmm.
Then they use the cow producer of beef, a beef cow, bred to a milk bull, and they got it.
Mm-hmm.
They have both in the same, but they just have to reverse the breeding.
Mm-hmm.
That was all. That was simple. Well,
Right.
it's the same. I just
Mm-hmm.
apply that idea, the experience of people that do it in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and use it and work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I don't invent it.
Mm-hmm.
Some other people do it, and just I use it.
True.
Um, so, well, that is the backup plans. Yes. It's
Okay.
always a backup.
Wonderful.
The backup is those brothers and sisters of the stars that the people see in the ring. Anyway,
Yeah.
what would be your advice to novice breeder? Oh, I respond that one already.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Okay.
Thank you, George. I think this this is a very valid point that you raised, that you actually provided, and it's a very unique perspective that you provided as well, in terms of the backup plan. George, I want to actually move on to my next question. Now, before I do that, for those ones that are tuned in, if you would like um, to post a question to George, feel free to put that in the comments, and I will make sure that I will ask George that question. So don't stop yourself. Please put your question up in the comments, and I will make sure that I'll ask George that question. Um, George, my next question is about.
I forget to mention something that is important. Maybe somebody like it. And it's about the phenotype.
Mhm,
When when I do my everything that I explained to you before was for the inbreedings and line breedings. When I breed into my own line and everything, but what I do when I use an outcross,
mhm,
I I have to use a dog that is have the same phenotype of my dogs. I cannot use a dog that don't match the phenotype,
mhm.
because the genes are different, so the look have to be the same. You cannot use something that have a different genes and a different look. Have to be the same phenotype.
True. Agreed. No, that's very true. I think.
Sorry, that was just
No, no,
like
no, not at all. Not at all. Absolutely. I think you mentioned that in terms of not using extremes. Keep it moderate. But totally, a very valid tip about what is the type of male you got to use, or what is the type of breeding partners you have to use when you're doing an outcrossing. Very valid point. Um, so, George, you have seen the evolution of boxes in the last. Again, I'm not. My telling you that you've been seeing this for the last 40 years is not to age you, not at all. Um, but I wanted to actually ask you, since you've seen evolution of boxers, you have seen dogs which have been tall, like you said, American boxers at one point were bordering on looking like a Doberman. Do you see that do you see that they have come back to the standard, or do you think they're still there? What do you see the current day problem is with the boxer in America?
Um, okay. Mm, the boxers 4 years ago, we can consider them now as an old style. Um, Unfortunate, in some parts of the world, this style still is on the taste of the people. For instance, in all South America likes the old style boxer, more heavy, more I don't know, all the style. Uh,
Hmm.
in the States, the people's was like that 40 years ago, a little heavier, a little shorter legs, I don't know. And with the years, those dogs are a little bit more elegant every time. In some point, they was a little bit too elegant, and then come back. Everything goes back to something in the middle. Something I can call in the middle something like what the standards say. The standard is one in Europe, in Japan, in Mexico, in the States, and at everywhere. Everywhere in the world, the standard is the same. Why
Hmm.
the dogs are different? It's just because of what the people is the interpretation of the people about that standard. But at the end, the standard is one, and the standard is very, very clear and beautiful. The boxers are so. When I read the standard of the boxer for the first time,
Hmm.
I get excited on how was perfect. The standard of the boxer is perfect. Just look at the measures in the head. The head have a perfect muscle. Is square. Is a cube. The same measure that this way, have it this way, and have it this way, is the same length of the of the muscle is the tall that has to be and the wide that has to be.
Hmm.
The length of the muscle is uh, half of the cranium measure. So that is make the anybody can measure a boxer without to use any tools. Is very simple and easy. It's
Hmm.
easy to see the height of something or
Hmm.
see the same measure many times.
Hmm.
That is easy to understand, easy to watch. For instance, the angulation. Angulations in the boxer are 90 degrees. Uh, 90 degrees is a perfect angle. It's just like this. So it's very easy to see that angulation. In other dogs like poodles, the angulation is not 90, it's 100 and so it's more difficult to find an angulation like this than an angulation like this. You can see it very easy.
Hmm.
Um, the same with the scalpel. The scalpel on the boxer have to be 45 degrees against the floor.
Hmm.
So it's the same. It's very easy measurement. That make it perfect.
Hmm.
So with that, mm, it's very easy to have it in mind and to know what you follow. For instance, the boxer is a square. The same length of the body is the height of the. I mean, is as tall as long.
Hmm.
That is a square. Other breeds like Rottweiler, Golden, the proportion is like 100 to 110, and I see that, and I still when I see a Rottweiler,
Hmm.
I say, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's 110 or 120 or 105. I have no idea. And with a boxer, that doesn't happen to me. You see it and you know it's a square or it's not a square.
True. Very true, George. Um, George, I'm gonna actually ask you a question from a viewer. The question that I have is, do you think most faults can be corrected in one generation of breeding, or does it take more?
Depends. Depends what are you using. If the dog that you are using for that breeding that you are telling me have 20 flaws, is different than if you are using a dog that have two faults.
Hmm.
So, of course, if you have a dog that have 20 flaws, 20 faults, uh, well, that will take some time to fix it, and will be many generations. You can do it by one, and usually it's very difficult to have something uh, in the first generation because every time you use a dog that will bring you good qualities to the leader, uh, it's not a perfect dog. So the dog that you are bringing give you many good qualities, but also have a bad things, something bad,
Hmm.
whatever. So you use the dog, make your breeding, and then you will have bad things from both sides, not just from one, from both. So you don't will have a perfect dog in the next generation, or in the next one, or in the next one. You don't will have a perfect dog never.
Hmm.
You can have something close to the perfect dog using good breeding stock. Um, I see that happening with somebody. I have a friend that breed boxers, and he start with some dogs, uh, medium quality, and then his dogs start to be too long in the body, too long. And then these bitches that he have from several lines, he buy from many places, two, three, four places, different places. But all of them was long in the body. And start breeding, and years later, everything that he produces is long in the body. Later, he start to make it short. Like, okay, if I use a short dog, that will be fixed.
Right.
Um, well, no. 20 years later, the dog's is still long. And he been using short dogs for many years, several years, more than 15, 20 years, using every single time short dogs. He rent dogs, pay breedings in the States, in here, there, it doesn't matter. He invests a lot of money
Hmm.
trying to fix something that he make it very, very hard because he breed long dogs to long dogs, and again and again, like many generations, four or five. Then he start to reverse it. He tried to reverse it,
Hmm.
but 20 years later, he still is producing long dogs.
Hmm.
So
Right.
mm, depends on what you use first. My recommendation with him in some point was just start all over again
Hmm.
with a short female. You don't have to carry what you have just because you have it. Just
Right.
start again with the best that you can.
Hmm. Well, it's not always an easy decision because it's sometimes you have to make hard decisions,
I
and right, because if you have to start over, well, you have to start over. You know, that's what is going to help you get further. That's the way you got to go. George, so George, I want to actually come back to ask this question. Now, you are a breeder and you are a handler. When you pick a puppy, are you picking a puppy just because of as from the eyes of a breeder, or are you looking at the puppy from the eyes of a handler? And I'll tell you why I'm asking you this question. A handler, the most important thing for a handler is the temperament of the puppy. You know how showy the dog's temperament is. For a breeder, it's more about, you know, does this puppy have the type? Does it have the type? So when it's you, George, that is both the handler and the breeder, are you picking puppy on type or are you picking puppy on temperament? How do you pick your puppies?
Both. Uh, both. Uh, when you have the leader, you see what is there, and start evaluating and what they are for. You can see that this dog is beautiful, is very pretty, have some flaws here and there, but have the temperament, is very showy. This dog is to show. The dog will like to show, will enjoy it, will win. So that dog is to be shown. Uh, in the same litter, you find a dog with a beautiful face, and that is a little bit mm, apathic, that doesn't like very much to be outstanding. And that dog is, of course, something that will put something in your breeding program because have a beautiful head. So that dog is to breed in the future in some point. A dog in the same litter that have a lot of flaws, well, that dog is a pet, will be a pet. Is a boxer, have a boxer temperament, is uh, very nice, good looking, whatever, but have faults that you don't want to reproduce, so that dog is a pet. Um, of course, you sell those dogs to the right places, wherever they go, for the purpose that they will fit. Now, what I will keep is the dog that have the beautiful face and no big flaws everywhere, that moves the way they're supposed to move, that they fly, and then with a great temperament. That one is the one that I keep for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or for somebody special like mm, Barbara in Philippines, or Mr. Bond in Thailand, or people, special people for me, special people that want something special, then is what I pick for them.
Wonderful. George, I'm going to come to that question about Thailand and Philippines. I have that question to ask you. We're going to take another question from a viewer. The question I'm going to put up on the screen. In your opinion, George, which movement is better between single tracking and legs perpendicular to the ground?
Single tracking is what the boxer is supposed to move like.
Okay.
The other movement is incorrect. Like let me see, mm, like a train rails, like
Mm-hmm.
that is not correct.
Right.
Uh, the and they the boxers are single tracking, and as more speed they have, is mm, more evident. But if you move them slow, still is will be a single tracking.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, George. Um, George, I wanted to actually move on to the handling part, and so this is a lot of interest in knowing what makes for a successful handler. And George, you have time and again with your wins, shown that you have been a successful handler. So, for the benefit of those viewers that are tuned in, what is the first thing in your mind when you enter with a dog in the ring? What is in it? What is your workings of your mind?
Um, well, let me see. This depends, because not always I think the same every time I go into the ring. Depends on what I have in my hands. Uh, Sometimes I show for the judge. Sometimes I show for a practice for the dog. Sometimes you have to show for the public, and that happens. For instance, this that you show for the audience, for the public, that happen a lot in the at the national, at the states, in the states at the national. You
Mhm,
show for everybody. You don't show for one person. Of course, it's important. It's very important to be paying attention to the judge and be nice and all that. But I think that the reason for ABC is the public, is the audience that is around the ring is so important. Is all the American breeders, is the handlers, is everybody is out there. So you cannot focus in one person with that type, with that kind of audience. You
mhm,
have to show for everybody.
mhm,
And in other shows, you show for the judge, you
mhm,
show win, and uh, sometimes you show for the learning experience for the puppy. And every time your mind is in a different state.
mhm,
So it's different. Like when I'm training a puppy, the most important is the puppy, is what is happening in the mind of the puppy. So
mhm,
I don't care about the ribbon. I don't care if I win or not. You have to be sure that the puppy is enjoying the time, that is learning, that is happy, and that is the most important that is in my mind. Mm,
mhm,
when I go into the ring and I try to win, is because I go with a dog that is ready. I go with the right judge that I respect the opinion, and I will put the dog in front to see. The first thing that I will do in that case is to try to catch the attention of the judge. Once I have the attention, then I show the good. I say, okay, look at what is there. Look what is here. I
mhm,
have I have this to offer. This dog, well, not really me, the dog. This dog is offering this, have this movement, have this head, have whatever, is what I try to show to the judge. Like,
mhm,
I catch you, now look at this.
mhm,
Then let me see. What is the first thing? Yeah. Well, that is the first thing. Depends
mhm.
on every time what I am looking for.
Got it. That's wonderful. George, I want to actually ask you this question about Thailand and Philippines. Now, I mentioned in the introduction that you started with Mexico, but you have shown all over South and Central America. You showed it in United States. I don't know if you showed it in Canada, um, but you have shown in Thailand and Philippines. Well, maybe in the next season you can come in and show in Canada. Maybe I could get lucky to get into the ring with you and show a dog alongside you. That would be an opportunity I would love. Um, Now, what is this is not something which has been done by a lot of people. People don't travel across the world to show dogs. What was the reason um, for you to actually, you know, you're already an accomplished handler in America, in South America, in Central America, in the United States. So, what prompted you to go and show in Thailand and Philippines? Was it Did you want to go and see the world like Judy Horton or Miles Gunter? Was that the reason?
Mm, actually, I was not ready for this question. But anyway, I will,
Okay.
I will try. Mm,
Or let me rephrase my question.
no, it's okay. It's nice. It's good because when I was a kid, I show in Mexico. I learned. I start traveling, make campaigning a dog in Mexico from state to state, and was very interesting and nice. And but all my learning was from magazines, and these magazines came from the states mostly. Uh, no, not all of them. I remember to have in my hands a magazine from Brazil, for instance, and I will talk about that later. But the learning was from the states. All that magazines that show me dogs, handlers, judges, everything was from the states. So I have in my mind the states as the goal, as the I have to reach it. I have to go to the states and win in the states and do everything in the states. The states was a goal.
Hmm.
Mm, the judges that came to Mexico from the states was the best judges. They judge uh, impartial because they know anybody. They don't know anybody. They was like they come do their job, and so I admire very much everything that came from the states. The magazines, the dogs, the judges, everything that came from the states was big for me.
Hmm.
Then I have to go to the States. I did it. I went to the States. I did what I have to do and win and what I have to win, and then realize that was nice, that was big, but was not big enough. I mean, it's much more than the States. Uh, it's a whole world out there. And I realized that because living there, I realized that many people in the States don't realize that it's more. All their world is just that.
Hmm.
And it's much more out there, moving and growing. And I want to experience that. I want to go to see what is there, what else is there. For
Hmm.
instance, the English dogs, the Australian, the Japanese, all that was very interesting. So I need to see firsthand. I need to be there, and that's the reason why I start traveling and see everything everywhere.
Hmm.
And that makes me once you go out one time makes me to want more and more and more.
Hmm.
So now I want to go everywhere.
Hmm. Well, I think there's a lot of places we've not seen, which will make a wonderful addition to the list of countries that you've already been to. Um, my next question, George, is about you have a lot of friends all over the world. You have friends in India too. Now,
And I have the fortune that that is true, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to have all those friends around the world
mhm,
that I love, and every time I see them, even if it's every year or every 2 years or whenever I see all the people, you don't have an idea how that feels.
mhm,
Is fantastic. It's fantastic to have those friends
mhm,
everywhere from different cultures, from different places that have different ways to perspective to everything.
mhm.
And I just love it.
Yeah, true.
But
Um,
sorry. Please
No,
continue.
no. My question was about the dogs that you see on with your friends in India. What are your thoughts about them? Are Indian dogs competitive in the global arena? What needs to be done? What are your thoughts based on just the pictures that you've seen?
Well, now with internet, it's much easier to know everything about everywhere, because in the past it was very difficult to know what is in some country, what is in another, what the people is doing here, how fast the evolution here there. Now with internet you can see everything, and now I can see that India is producing a lot of boxers, and not just the European dogs are evolutioning very fast. The American dogs are evolutioning different, very fast. In India too. India have I see on Facebook, on everywhere, dogs from India, and they are very nice. You find some views sometime, like you see some dog, and then I start following that dog, uh, because it's very interesting how in the last years the work is the reflect all the work that the all the Indian leaders are is doing. uh, you see it reflected on the pictures of the new dogs, the young dogs, the puppies, and it's very interesting because those dogs, yeah, can be competing in different countries, and in the in fact that is happening. It's happening because I don't know if they go to compete from India to the States. I mean, it's a long way,
Yeah, it
but
is.
they can, and will be with a good success. Many people think that Mexico produces good boxers, and this is true, but it's not just the advantage that we have. You mentioned it before, is that we are close. We are very close, and it's much easier to go from here to there and compete, and that's it. That is what make it like apparently is good boxers. But India have a good boxers too. The only thing is that the distance make it more difficult to show it around the world.
True.
But the quality is there, and in some point that will be visible to everybody.
Wonderful. Certainly, that day is very close, and hopefully, we get to see something from India, exhibited in the states. Well, it has done. It has been done in the past. We've had a few breeders in India who've done that, but we would like to see more of them do it in the future. George, I wanted to actually, we're almost close to the time, but I wanted to actually ask you this question. Um, Now, in terms of, in terms of the journey that you've taken so far, you started with a handler, you became a breeder, you continue to handle. What is what is next? What's in next in store for George? I know George has judged sweepstakes. What is in store? Are you looking? Are you go? What is in store for the next 5 to 10 years?
The the normal that is judging. The judging is the last step, I think. The people that judge already was a handler, already bred, so have the experience to go and give an opinion to the rest of the people to do their job better, to do to contribute with something. It's different if you are a judge and you don't have that experience, if you never breed anything and goes and judge, I think that is something mediocre. You have to be a breeder because if you see a puppy from the time it born to the time that the dog is growing and then showing and see how the dog get older, so you see all those changes, so you know when you goes and judge a puppy, you have an idea what will happen with that puppy in the future. So you have an idea of, okay, this dog will develop in something, and your opinion is based on something more real, not just a second, not just what I am looking at this moment, and then that beautiful puppy will change in something ugly in some point, and I already give my opinion that is spectacular because in that second was very good. As as a breeder, then you have an idea. This you can say, okay, this is a beautiful puppy that don't will be a great dog, will be okay. So you consider that and put it in the ring. So that is as a breeder and then judge.
Mhm.
As a handler is the same. As a handler, you know what the handlers can do with the dog, how malleable the dog is, how flexible, and what you can do and what you cannot do. So, as a judge, you go to the ring and you can ask the handler to. In fact, I see it. In fact, I see very good judges like I don't know, like a Frank Sabella. I see Frank Sabella to take a dog from the handler and stack it himself. He stacked the dog because he wants to see that dog and not in the hands of the handler. So I I was able to see that in front of my eyes and I cannot believe it, but that was I think that was wonderful because the or Annie Clark. You cannot fool judges like Annie Clark or Mike Billings or I mean judges that cannot be fooled. Why? Because they have the experience enough to not to be fooled, and that experience you just get it being a handler and being a breeder.
Wonderful. Well, George, I think you'll make a wonderful judge, and I know you judge sweepstakes, and that's the reason I put that picture up there. Looking forward to that day. I hope that day is not too far. Uh,
I hope.
yes. George, I just have two final questions for you. Now, this interview will not be over without me asking you, having shown so many dogs over the years, do you have any favorites? Any favorite dogs that you want to share?
Of course, everybody has favorites. Everybody. I mean, uh, and I'm no deception. Of course, I have favorites. I think that my favorite of all times is Routier. Uh, Routier is the reason why I am here, doing what I do. He he was my first best in show, my first everything. He is the only one that was 2 times dog of the year, the number one all breed dogs rank in Mexico. So this one is one of my favorites, of course. Maxi was a beach that a Mary Lane's beach, beautiful. She, in some point, she was my favorite. Also, she sleep with me. uh, goes with me to work, travel everywhere. That was my favorite. Also was a very good. She was shown very, very little, but she was almost best in show every single time that she went into the ring. Uh, so she won several best in shows and was shown very few times. And I have the fortune that Michelle Billings put her hands on her, and uh, I was the happiest person in the world that day. Another one that is very nice is Draco Bad Boy. Um, he's the he's very important because he's the base of what I have today. What I have today came from Draco Bad Boy. Draco Bad Boy was a dog that had some American lines on him, uh, some English, and a little bit. Yeah, it's a. He was not just a good dog by himself. He won enough, uh, but he produces winners, and that is very important. Um, Sequoia is uh, very important for me because his head is so beautiful that everybody likes that head in all the world. It's three or four people that write to me and they mm, tattoo his head in their bodies.
Wow.
I mean, four people around the world have his head in their body for all their lives. Many people ask me, like vets, people that have places to uh, like a like a what is the name of where mm, 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 where they bathe dogs and like aesthetic or something.
Hmm. A
These
spa?
places, they many people that own these places ask me to use the image of that for their place. Uh, so to be used in different ways. So that head is like universal. Nobody, even if it's from Europe, from the States, from everywhere, everybody that see that head agree that that is a boxer head. So that is what is universal, makes it universal. Another one can be, I don't know, Sequoia. Sequoia is one of the most important dogs for me. Sequoia was my baby.
Hmm.
That dog was my personal dog. I from the time that he born, I decided not to show him because for me it was so beautiful that he I don't need the opinion of anybody to tell me if they like it or not. He was good enough for me to not to show to anybody. This one that is in the screen is Giorgio. Giorgio is the son of Sikander. Uh, but yes, Sikander actually he was not shown. I shown Sikander a couple of times. One of those times was at the National at ABC in in in, in Kentucky, and actually he won his class. The judge at that time, I remember the judge was uh, mm, Abraham, David Abraham, and he opened his mouth 7 times during the judging. He cannot believe that beautiful bite. He have to go and see it again over and over 7 times. And this is another one of his kids. This one is Xavier. Uh, the one that was this is the brother the little mate of the one that was in the screen before. Both of them are best in show dogs in different countries. The last one was best in show in Philippines, many best in shows. This one is best in Guatemala and Mexico. The other one, that is from this leader is Adele. Adele is also multi-best in show in Mexico. So that is why it's so important, because he don't have just he's not just a beautiful dog. Also, he produces beautiful dogs and leave them there. Another one is Cristina. Cristina is the daughter of the same, of Sikander, and she's a best in show in Brazil. What else is there? Giorgio, Adele, Javier, Cristina. Thor. Thor is another one in the States. He won also many best in shows there. Mm, so, yeah, this one is Thor. So all of them are Sikander kids. That's why it's so important for me. Another one very important is Margie. She, mm, we just lost Margie this week at 11 years old, and well, she was beautiful girl. She won best opposite sex at the national and 14 best in shows, or all breed best in shows. So she did a very great career, and mm, was was sad to lose her, but well, at 11, that's it.
We're very sorry for your loss, George.
Thank you very much. Um, but anyway, well, those ones are some of the ones that are the favorites. Well, Levi, you put Levi in the screen a little bit ago.
I believe I did, yes.
That one is also important. He won himself enough, best in shows in different countries. He won the regional, the American Boxer Club regional, and also, but most important is what he lives. He produces Sedona. One of his kids won the national. Another one of his is his grandkid, Vincent. He won the national too. He have more than 100 champions around the world. He have champions everywhere in the world. He have kids everywhere, and doing a lot of. I think that he was a very important piece for the breed in general. It's one of the dogs that most contributes to the evolution of the boxer breed in the world.
Wonderful. I think I have so many more pictures that I've not put up on the screen of your dogs, and clearly you produce some really nice dogs, George.
Thank you.
And in conclusion, I wanted to actually ask you this question: what is your advice or suggestion to up and coming fanciers of the breed? What is your suggestion or advice to them?
Mm, I don't know. I don't know. It's I a good okay advice to new people in the breed.
Yes.
Okay. Well, they have to start with wherever they are able to do it. I mean, the best that they can get is what they have to start to, because it's the same. You can drag with you all the characteristics from the first dogs because you love them too much, but they was not the best quality, and then you drag all that just because you love them. But it's not the most practical thing to do. It's better to start all over again if it's necessary with the best quality that you can. And I don't say that you have to get rid of what you have and start all over again. You can keep it, but then you have to introduce something the best that you can and then start all over again from that point. And the other ones, you will realize yourself that it's better just to make it aside slowly or whatever, because the other ones that you have are better quality. So that will happen if you just restart with something better in some point, and that will make you to go faster, much faster, because as I told you before, these friends have long dogs for 20 years, dragging and dragging and dragging, and that have no sense. If you can just go and buy a short one and that's it, and start from there, well, you don't have to do that and to waste that time.
True. Very, very true, George. George, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to actually, get your perspective and some very interesting analogies on livestock breeding. I'm going to remember, I'm going to read up more about the milk cow and the meat cow. I'm going to meet both, rather. I'm going to go back and read that. But it was a very, very interesting session. And this interview, for those ones that missed out on the earlier part of the interview, is going to be available on YouTube. So you can go back and see this interview. Thank you again, George. It was a great opportunity for all of us to get your views. Do you have any parting thoughts?
No, I think that I want to thank you too for to having me here. It's a pleasure. I feel very um, fortunate to be here with you. I hope that this information will be helpful to somebody at some point. And I really thank you to having me here. And anytime that you require, well, I will be very glad to come back and talk a little bit more.
Wonderful. I think that's I'm going to take up that offer, and for another day for sure, George. You said it, and I'm going to invite you back again. Thank you.
You know what? You know what? I just want to mention something very quick because
Yes.
I forget to mention something about the magazine, the Brazilian magazine that
Hmm.
fall into my hands when I was a kid was an article from Agnes Buchwald, and this article speak about boxers and everything, and something that she write there marked me for all the time. She says something about that breeding boxers is like playing cards with God. Sometimes he let us win, but that is true. That is completely true. To breed boxers with God.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, George. Thank you again. You have yourself a wonderful day. And for those viewers watching in, we have another interesting guest for the following week. Stay tuned. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care.